Okay, let us continue from where we reach. Longitudes and latitudes. Nataka muangalie vizuri. I want just to repeat some few concepts whereby we have these particular two basic lines. This particular line that I've just drawn downwards here is representing the prime meridian. The prime, it is representing the prime meridian. And also, the line that you're seeing at this particular point is called the equator. Those are the two major lines that I want every person to have an understanding in, because those are the basics that we want to just deal with. Here, we have the equator, and we have also the prime meridian. Now, all other lines which are passing across, kama hizo zenye naendelea kuchora pale, they are called latitudes. Those lines that you have just drawn across this way, they are termed as latitudes. All other lines which are going downwards this way, they are termed as longitudes. So, after understanding what are the longitudes, then we ask ourselves, how can we be able to know the specific positions of various towns, for example? Let us take an example that we are at Garissa. Let us take an example of Garissa. I want just to give out my own example. Now, how can you be able to give the position of Garissa, which is 40 degrees north and then 35 degrees east? That is an example. 40 degrees north, 35 degrees east. How can you be able to deal with this for you to position it wherever it's supposed to be? So we said this particular line is starting from the equator. The equator is situated at 0 degrees. That is, this particular line called the equator, let us make it to be polar. So this particular line that you are seeing there is called the equator, which is found at 0 degrees. Moving upwards, we increase the degrees one by one from 0 to a maximum of 90 degrees. Meaning that up there is going to be 90 degrees, down there is going to be 90 degrees. That means from this particular 0 degrees, moving to the south, you are going to move, for example, 10 degrees, 20 degrees, ukitaramuka mpaka ufike 90. Na ukienda juu, utakuwa unafanya hivyo hivyo tu. So tuseme, for example, our 40 degrees ready to be there, and also let our 60 degrees be at that particular point. Therefore, we will be able to realize that 40 degrees north will be found at this particular line. 40 degrees north will be found at this particular line. And also, let I show you where that 5 degrees is to repeat. Now, I want you to just understand also this particular line that we call the prime meridian is a line which divides the left side from the right side. So towards the right, we call it towards the east, and to your left is called towards the west. Therefore, we also increase those particular degrees as we move, and to your left is called particular degrees. For example, let I call this particular line to be 20 degrees east. This particular line, let I call it 20 degrees east. The following, here inafuata, niite 40 or niite 35 degrees east. Now, where will be our Garissa now? Because I said, let Garissa be at the position called 40 degrees north, 35 degrees east. So, Garissa will be, we come to this particular point where we have 40 degrees north, that particular line. This particular line which is called 40 degrees north. Then, tuangalie inaitwa 35 degrees east. This way. Inaitwa 35 degrees east ndio hiyo. Where they meet, this particular point where they meet, that is where we find Garissa. Meaning that 40 degrees north, unaangalia kwenda juu, that is towards the north, and then you look, you see that 5 degrees towards the east, penye inapatikana. Where they meet, that is where Garissa is. So that is how we can be able to position any particular point. Okay, let I just give you another point. For example, let us say Nairobi, it is at 20 degrees north. 20 degrees, okay, let us just use 40. 40 degrees north, then that 20 degrees west. Now, where will we be able to find this particular Nairobi? 40 degrees north, 20 degrees west. So, tutaipata wapi? So the only thing that we're going to be able to do, we come to the longitude which is called 40 degrees towards the north. It is at this particular line. And then let us call this particular line to be 20 degrees west. Therefore, tukienda kwa hiyo line inaitwa 40 degrees north, na hii line inaitwa 20 degrees west, wherever they meet. Bale penye zinakutana pale, this is where we call our point called Nairobi. So I'm trying to remind you what we did last time. Now, I want to add some few concepts. If that is the case, how do we get what we call angle difference? There's something that we call angle difference. Angle difference. We said angle difference is abbreviated by theta. Angle difference is abbreviated by theta. This particular theta can be found by just finding what are the total degrees from one point to the other point. For example, if we are at Nairobi, which is N, what is the total number of degrees from N to the prime meridian? Ukiangalia from Nairobi to the prime meridian, it is a total of 20 degrees. Then from the prime meridian to where G is, it is another 35 degrees. Therefore, the angle difference between the two towns will be 20 degrees plus 35 degrees. It will be 20 degrees plus 35 degrees. So the angle difference will be 20 plus 35, which will give us a total of 55 degrees. Okay. Students, are you getting me clear? Rama? Rama? San?
Yes, madam.
Mnanisikia? Umesikia je nimesema kwa chalkboard?
Ndio.
Eh? Shamsa?
Ndio.
Umeelewa je nimesema on chalkboard? Are you following? Yes? Mnafuata?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay, let us continue. Now I want to just ask you one thing. If we wanted to, nataka muangalie what I've just given, what's on the chalkboard. Nataka muone chenye chiko kwa chalkboard. I want to just give you one assignment. There is a line here which is called 60 degrees north. I think everybody is seeing that. This line which is called 60 degrees north. And then we have a line which is called 35 degrees east. This particular line which is here. We have 60 degrees north. We have 35 degrees east. Now, I want somebody to tell me this particular town which is found at that particular point. This particular point here. Remember, it is 60 degrees north here. We have another line going down. They are meeting at this particular point. Now, I want to ask one question. What is the position of this particular point? this particular point, what is the position? How do we call it? How do we call it? Sun. You need the answer for that? Sun? Shamsa? Who can give me the answer for this particular point?
60 degrees north, that 5 degrees.
Inaitwa? Give me the answer very fast. It is this particular point here that I've just made it to be polar. Now, this is 60 degrees north, and this particular line which is moving down is called that 5 degrees east. Now, what is the point with this particular position inaitwaje?
Out of time. Upgrade.
Now, can you give me the answer for this? Give me the answer, please.
60 degrees north,
60 degrees north.
that 5 degrees east.
And 35 degrees. 35 degrees.
East.
So it is 60 degrees north, 35 degrees east. That is the answer for that particular point. Now, another point. Nataka muangalie huko chini. We have got 10 degrees, that is towards the south. And we have a point which is exactly at this particular point. Now, who can give me the answer for this? This is down there. Nataka muangalie vizuri. This particular line which is passing here, that's what it is dimension here, which is 10 degrees. This particular line here, which is going up and down, you can be able to see what I've written there. It is 20 degrees west. Now, what is the answer for this particular point? This particular point which is here? It is here. This particular point here, there's a line which is passing through this. And this particular line, I have got the dimension at this particular end. Now, what is the point that is here? Which point is this? Yes?
10 degrees south.
It is? It is what? Who is ready to answer?
10 degrees south and
10 degrees south.
10 degrees south and
So it is 10 degrees south, comma. Then it is 10 degrees south, 20 degrees west. That is the position. That is the position of this particular point. Now, who can be able to give me the angle difference between this point, which is called N, and this particular point that I have termed as Q? There is an N up there, which is at this particular point that we named earlier. Then there is a point which is down there. What is the angle difference now? Remember, we have the equator which is passing at 0 degrees. Then we have 40 degrees upwards. We have another 10 degrees downwards. So what is the angle difference between the two towns? We have N up there and we have Q here. So what is the angle difference?
50.
Wapi? Ngapi?
50.
Can you just talk? Acha kuogopa. Can you just give me the answer for that? Give me the answer.
50 degrees.
Are you saying 60 or 50?
50.
It is supposed to be 50 degrees because we have got the 40 degrees from here up to here, which is coming up to 0. And then we have 10 degrees from here up to here. So the total theta, that is the angle difference is going to be 40 plus 10, which is going to give us a total of 50 degrees. That is what we call angle difference. So the angle difference for this particular issue is going to be 40 degrees to the north plus 10 degrees to the south. So the angle, which is called theta, is going to be termed as 50 degrees. That is the total angle that we are supposed to understand there. Now, so 40 is coming from here. So this is the line that we call 0 degrees, which is called the equator. Then from the equator, mpaka huku kwa hii laini penye n inapatikana, it is called 40 degrees towards the north. So from 0 to where n is, it is a total of 40 degrees. From 0 to where q is, it is 10 degrees. So 10 from here up to here, 40 from here up to here. So it's going to be 40 plus 10. It's going to be a total of what? 50 degrees. That's now the angle difference. That's what we call the angle difference. Ibo Mohammed. Ibo Mohammed, are you hearing me? Mohammed?
Are you following? Hiyo mute your mic.
Okay, let us move on. So I want to clean something on the chalkboard so that I can be able to start something different. Nataka nifute ndio tuanze kitu kingine tofauti. Now, after getting what is called the angle difference, now I want us to understand how can we be able to calculate the distances between 2 points. The distances between 2 points. For example, you are at the point. Now, we want to just understand how to calculate what we call distance. We want to just understand how to calculate the distance from one point to another point. The first thing that you have to understand is we must be having theta. That is a must. We must be having theta, which is what we call the angle difference. That is the first requirement. Lazima tukuwe na angle difference. That is the first thing. After getting the angle difference, then we can be able to use the following formulas. Now, the first formula is going to come from a thing which is called great circle. There is something that we're going to term as a great circle. Now, what are great circles? What is a great circle? That is the first thing we have to ask yourself. Now, we want to define what are great circles. Great circles are all longitudes plus the equator. Those are the two things that we term as the great circles. So all great circles, all the great circles that we're going to work with are longitudes. That is the first thing. The other thing that is going to be called a great circle, it's an equator. Hizo ndio vitu mbili tunastahili tujue ya kwamba they are categorized under the section that we call great circles. Now, under great circles, we are supposed to calculate distances in two ways. One, we can be able to calculate in terms of kilometers, or we can calculate in terms of nautical miles. So we can be able to calculate these particular things in two ways. One, we can be able to calculate it in kilometers, or we can be able to calculate it in nautical miles. Now, which formula are we going to use to calculate in terms of kilometers? So in terms of kilometers, we are going to use the following formula. So I want you to just take it from the upper side. I'm going to write it here. using a great circle, in terms of kilometers, we are going to say it's going to be theta over 360 2 pi r. It is theta over 360 times 2 by r. Theta, it is the angle difference, whereby 2 pi is the normal working, we know 2 times 24 out of 7. But now the radius that we're going to use is the radius of the Earth, which is approximately 6370. So that is the approximate value that we're going to use for us to calculate the distances. So this particular value that I've just written here as the radius is going to be given to you wherever you want to calculate